Recently, the stock's fallen pretty sharply, about 38% since over the last 4 weeks. So it's been under pressure, but rebounding today after a couple upgrades. Let's bring in Diane King Hall, senior markets correspondent here. Diane, another upgrade today, an upgrade yesterday in ARM Holdings, and we're seeing a little bit of a resurgence.
That's right. Shares are up 8% at the moment off the back of another upgrade for ARM Holdings. This was off of Diawa Securities, upgrading it to outperform. Previously, its rating, it saw it neutral. It now has a $130 price target on the stock, so it has some room to run. From the perspective of Diawa Securities, they say that their new view on it is that things are basically settling after it says called out a few interesting and volatile quarters, because we know we saw shares lose some ground, significant ground recently. They think that the bad news of a possible recession is out. They think tech is settling and kind of regaining its footing after this big sell-off that we've seen across the board. And they say AI expectations are still strong. They do think that the valuation is still high, but they think that over the next 90 days, shares of ARM Holdings will move higher, and they note that their expectations the Fed will start to cut rates soon, and that will be beneficial to ARM. And as you mentioned, I mean, ARM lost a lot of ground recently, especially off the back of its latest quarterly report card. It wasn't about how they performed on the top and bottom line. It was about their guidance that was a little lighter than expected. So the street had wanted to see more, and they also said they would no longer be reporting the number of chips that they ship. We've started to see some companies talk about things like that, certain metrics that they're no longer going to report. They said that they don't see it as a KPI, key performance indicator, going forward, because they say that, it doesn't kind of represent what the big picture is. And so, they were dinged for that recently, but it looks like analyst after analyst is coming out and becoming now supportive of ARM.
Diane, it's such a fascinating company because they architect, they develop, they license these CPUs, but they don't build them, right? It's their technology that other companies are depending on them in building them. And, it was interesting, Supermicro coming out, the fear that's starting to creep into the AI trade is the margins now and competition and overall prices coming down, which isn't going to be the worst thing. The business is still going to be there, but the valuations are going to suffer, right? Isn't that what's really happening? They're taking valuations out because the margins are starting to stumble.
This is true, and that's one of the concerns kind of within this space, and you're starting to have the question for investors. This needs to be more of a show-me story when it comes to these AI chip plays. But it does seem like the bullish sentiment is now rising after you had kind of, some of the destruction of shares that we've seen for ARM. You talked about the analyst upgrade yesterday. You had one earlier at the beginning of this month off the back of their quarterly report card. You had Rosenblatt, who maintained their buy rating for ARM. They say that they are increasingly bullish about it, faster adoption of the V9 architecture over the next few years. They have a really high price target compared to some of their peers. I mean, their price target for ARM is $180 a share. JP Morgan Chase still bullish on ARM. Their thesis being that they will be, kind of a beneficiary. They're overweight on the stock. They believe that they will continue to be a leader in the chip space when it comes to the architecture. They believe that they can, kind of respond to the demand that is out there. Their price target on ARM is $140 a share.
All right, great breakdown for us. And, I think the biggest thing why the stock fell post-earnings is the fact that they didn't raise guidance moving forward. They just kind of confirmed it. So, yeah, maybe there's the problem. All right, thanks to Diane King Hall, senior markets correspondent here, breaking down the ARM story for us. Let's bring